Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. We cover everything Major League from spring training to the World Series. We've got your favorite club covered from New York to Boston to LA. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
Thank you all for tuning in to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Evan Worley, and we are back with another exciting week of baseball. And not only is it another exciting week of baseball, but it is the special full edition of the trade deadline show. I've been covering the trade deadline the past couple episodes. I am recording this early because I have some things that I got to get done later tonight. It's only it's 2:22 p.m. Central Time, so we still have, I think, another half hour or a full hour of the trade deadline left. I will probably be breaking more news as the episode goes on. Later in the show, I will be covering, who's going to be affected most out of their trades based on, if they're going to move up in the rankings or they're going to move down in the, not rankings, but standings, that is, and how it's going to play into their overall, just how they do in the playoffs, I guess. Because I just read an article saying that, there could be a bubble for the postseason. I read back at the initial reports, and there was nothing specific about a bubble, but I'll get to it in a little bit about, Dave Roberts got questioned saying that, there could be a bubble and how he would react to that. So, but before we get to that, a little bit of backstory about my weekend. I hope you guys had a great weekend. Mine, I legitimately laid hardwood floors for 2 days. That was pretty cool. And then, I just went out and I'm coaching a 13 and under developmental league baseball team out here in Texas. So I don't know if anybody's listened to this who lives in the Rockwall area, but if you're with the Rockwall Tigers, then yeah, I just started coaching with them. We have practice like 3.5 hours, so that's why I had to get this done a little bit earlier than I normally do. But yeah, so before we get to the updated trades for the trade deadline, I just wanted to talk about this week in action. We got a couple players of the week this week. The AL player of the week was obviously Lucas Giolito because, he had the first no-hitter of 2020. He not only did he have the first no-hitter, because we've seen some no-hitters that weren't especially dominant, kind of like, the Irvin Santanas or the Edwin Jacksons, where it was 150 pitches and not many Ks. It was just kind of like they just couldn't, get bat to ball and get to the right areas. It wasn't really some spectacular performance. Giolito had 13 Ks and hit only 101 pitches were needed to get that to get the no-hitter. So that is about as dominant of a no-hitter as you can get. And for the NL this week, Manny Machado gets it again for the second time this season. I don't know what it is about Manny Machado, but it's when he cares, he's that prime example of player who just knows he's really great and can phone it in from time to time and still may be good enough when he's phoning it in to where he can make a ton of money. I never felt like he was that outstanding with the Dodgers. When he was with the Dodgers, he had his name. It seemed like he never really cared what he was doing in Los Angeles, and now his first year or 2 years, I would say, with the San Diego Padres, he's he was kind of average at best. You know, he didn't put up the super special Manny Machado numbers that we're used to, you know, when he was in Baltimore coming up. But, you know, it seems like he's actually flipped that switch, and he is killing it. You know, this week alone, he batted .538 with 3 homers and a 15.19 OPS. Manny Machado's just crushing it. That's really all anybody could say about it, is Manny Machado is 100% mashing baseballs. And, you know, you pair him with, he's not even, you know, playing the best on that side of the infield for the San Diego Padres. It's absolutely insane to think about that. Manny Machado has been a 2-time player of the week, but statistically he is not better than, you know, the guy playing right next to him. It's absolutely insane. And the guy next to him is younger and playing better than him when he's putting up numbers like .538, 3 homers, and a 15.19 OPS in a week. It's absolutely bananas. And like I said, we'll go over this a little bit later, but the San Diego Padres, I'm sure all of you are well aware of by now. You know, they have made quite the rumble at the trade deadline. I've been just refreshing my page all morning just to see, you know, the breaking news when the news breaks, and it has been non-stop action for the San Diego Padres, and I'm so excited. They were my team to watch before the season started, along with the Chicago White Sox. They are absolutely crushing it. And then there's another team that's absolutely crushing it out back east. They're actually in Buffalo, one of the hottest teams in the league right now. The Toronto Blue Jays actually have somehow stumbled and just wrecked their way, even without Bo Bichette playing every game this year. You know, he's had his trouble with injuries. They found their way into the 8th seed of the playoff seeding. So also, you know, I'll be going over that a little bit later too, but it's insane that they were able to recover like that, and it is looking so, like, all the young teams are just so fun, and they're not only are they fun to watch, but they are actually winning games, and they're looking actually like legitimate future contenders, and it's so nice. But before we get to the playoffs and the updated trade watch, I should say, I just wanted to talk about how the Dodgers have broken the NL record for homers in a calendar month with 57 going on. You know, the Dodgers, I don't know how they just are always just mashing balls left and right. You know, it's like, you look at their team, and besides, like, you know, they got Mookie Betts, they got Cody Bellinger, you know, Corey Seager isn't the most consistent player on that team. You know, they got Will Smith, who's putting in a lot of, you know, he's getting a lot of output from through him. You know, like I say, with Corey Seager, he's not really as consistent, but he's playing like one of the best players on the team. You know, Justin Turner, you don't really look at him as a major home run threat. You know, Jock Peterson, you're not looking at him as a major home run threat. Like, they don't really have, besides Bellinger and besides Mookie Betts, you know, they don't really have that lineup where you look at it and you're like, oh, like, watch out for him. You know, you can maybe say Max Muncy, but Muncy's kind of inconsistent as well, even though he's about a third. You can probably map him in for 20 to 30 homers a year, you know, in that kind of range. But you know, they just keep doing it. They just keep winning. They just keep bringing up new players, and they just keep, like, it's just a machine. And I don't understand how they keep doing it. But back to what I was going to talk to about the bubble. So there was an article that I read on MLB.com, and they said a few hours before the Dodgers set another home run record, manager Dave Roberts was asked about the possibility of the spacious Globe Life Field in Arlington would be a postseason bubble site, and how that might hamper a team so reliant on the long ball. I don't know about you, but I was reading that article and I was saying, I've seen a lot, and I mean a lot, of homers coming out of Globe Life Field in Arlington. I don't know how people are going to start saying that it's not really home run friendly. Like, I mean, the Dodgers absolutely just mashed on them. But my thing about that is I picked up bubble site for the postseason. Now, I mentioned this a little bit earlier where I was looking at, the initial layout of the playoffs and how they kind of turned the playoffs into basketball where, it's no one gets a bye. There is no bye weeks. The 1 seed plays the 8th seed, the 2 seed plays the 7th seed, 3, 6, 4, 5. And, with the whole thing about it was, they weren't going to travel. When they do the expanded playoffs, or when they do the expanding playoffs, it's all a wild card series, best of 3. All games are at the higher seeds' home ballpark to reduce the travel and everything like that. So basically, they are trying to keep the teams and still give like a home field advantage, but they're also now hinting at a bubble in Arlington to where every single game will be played in Arlington. Now, I don't know if, I feel like that is a good idea for the safety of the players, and at the end of the day, that's really all that we want is for the players to stay safe. But I don't know how that would translate with the team. I feel like the teams would be a little bit, standoffish on that, because as we've seen in the bubble in the NBA, anything could happen. The Suns went 8-0 in the NBA bubble when they were, one of the worst teams in the league going into it, and somehow were still quote unquote had a chance, even though they won out and they didn't make it. But you see stuff like this, and I think, me personally, I want this bubble so bad. Because if you really think about the bubble, the Major League postseason has been wild the past few seasons. Ever since they put in the wild card game back in 2015, where it was the A's and the Royals, that first ever wild card game was absolutely bananas. And if you put it, I feel like if you put every game in a bubble and you start off, at the AL runs through one day on Monday, and then the NL runs through it on Tuesday. You go back and forth on it. That could be one hell of a postseason, and that makes me so excited because with the new, and it fits well because with the new extra innings rule, there hasn't been many games go past the 10th inning. I think I've seen one game go to the 13th. It was either the 13th or the 14th. But, when it goes to the 9th inning, most games are ended in the 10th. I mean, we just saw this weekend Luis Robert end a game in the 10th. The Yankees had a extra inning game, and they ended it in the 10th. A lot of games have been ended, after that one extra inning because they're just, you get that runner in scoring position, you pull through, and then it's, you get that little extra confidence, and the guy comes in and close the game. I do think that the bubble would fit really well, and basically it's just trying to find out where in the bubble, or where do you locate the bubble, because if you do it in a area with 2 teams, you know what I'm saying? Obviously, I'm a Southern California kid, so you can look at Los Angeles and be like, all right, AL is stationed in Anaheim, NL is stationed at Chavez Ravine. You can have multiple games going at the same time, and you can have all this other stuff going on, and it just takes the travel worry as stressors out of it for the players, and the stress of travel and the stress not only mentally but physically on the body. It could go really, really well. I know they probably won't do New York because New York is up in arms right now and everything is kind of looking, a little rough in New York. But it'd be cool to see if they did something along those lines. Maybe even Chicago, even though Chicago's kind of up in arms too. They're probably 2 of the worst. But you can do Los Angeles. I mean, you can even do Arizona, with the spring training fields. I've been to the Cactus League before. The fields are nice. They just look really, really nice. And then October, the weather's not going to be too bad to the point where these guys are absolutely melting on the field. You're not going to have, you don't have the Jabba Chamberlain, event where he's getting eaten by bugs in the ALCS in like 2008, I think it was. But, there's so many different options that this league can do. And the fact that they're hinting at a bubble in the first place is looking like they might be leaning towards it, and it's smart. It's a smart way to do it. People bashed the wild card game because it was played in a certain way before all the time, and then we had two of the most the first wild card series, the A's and the Royals. It went to extra innings. It was just like play after play after play was getting made. And then you had the other, you had the opposite end of the spectrum, because you had, I think that first one was the Giants and the Pirates, and you had Madison Bumgarner just absolutely shut it down with, I think he threw like a complete game 2-hitter in the wild card game, something along those lines. I just know the Giants just waxed the Pirates in back-to-back wild card series, which was a bummer, but because I really wanted the Pirates to get in, because they were cellar dwellers for 20 years up until that point. I just wanted them to get to the postseason, get a real sort of experience out of it, but it's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. But yeah, like all the changes that have been made so far have worked out really well. You had the change to the home run derby with that format. You had the change with the wild card series. You've had like a bunch of all the changes that we've made as a league have been, have gone over pretty smoothly. It's just, the punishments have, has gone a little bit left, and, it's kind of put a damper on, what we've done. But like big structural decisions, I think the league has been doing a great job about it. And I'm really, really for this potential bubble series for the postseason. So let's hope Manfred actually makes the right decision. Let's see where they put the bubble in the first place, and we'll see where it goes from there. All right, everybody, I will take a quick break, and I will be right back with all the news from the trades from today. Give me one moment. I'll be right back after this quick break.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
All right, everybody, we are back again. So let's talk about these trades. So I've been checking my phone during the break, and it looks like there is nothing new since the last deal broke about 40 minutes ago. So let's start off by talking about the major trade of the deadline, and that is one Mike Clevinger going to the San Diego Padres. Now, the Padres, I'm sure, as all of you are well aware, have done nothing but clean house and take pretty much anybody they could off the hands of these teams. They've had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. They're at 5 trades already, just in the past couple days. So let's start off, like I said, with the big one. Mike Clevinger, Greg Allen, and a player to be named later are going to go to the Padres, and they give up Austin Hedges, Josh Naylor, Cal Quintrell, shortstop Gabriel Arias. Now, shortstop Gabriel Arias is the number 7 prospect in the Padres system, and they got another infielder, Owen Miller, number 11. Could that mean that they are completely okay with getting rid of Francisco Lindor at the end of the year? That is definitely something we need to keep, our eyes peeled on, because, getting rid of Mike Clevinger, they've hinted at just, cleaning house because they're all these players are a little too expensive for them. I honestly don't think that they would go that route, but, what do I know? I thought that they were going to keep Mike Clevinger at the deadline and just kind of, roll out a 6-man starting rotation. They also got left-handed pitcher Joey Cantillo for in the deal. He's the number 9 prospect in the Orioles system, or not the Orioles, the Padres system. So, and the way that the Indians have been pumping out elite pitching talent recently. Joey Cantillo, he could fit in seamlessly. You don't really know. This could be a major haul for the Indians, and they can just kind of revamp their roster. It's gonna be weird. I'm leaning towards Francisco Lindor being gone, and same with Jose Ramirez. With the acquisition of these 2 infielders, you never really know what's going to happen with the Cleveland Indians. They could be at the top of their game and still sell, but that's definitely something we should look out for. But for the Padres' sake, it looks like they finally nabbed their number 1. Chris Paddock is, he has the stuff to be a number 1 pitcher, but he doesn't have the consistency just yet, and they were kind of missing out on that number 1 go-to starter who could just take the mound every 5 days, and you're going to get a good start out of him, and that is Mike Clevinger. And another thing about Clevinger that's going to be really good for the Padres is he is still under the team control until 2022. So not only do they have this year, but they have 2 full seasons left of Mike Clevinger, when they also have Dinelson Lamet. I cannot get his name right, but I'll just say Lamet. They still have, Lamet, they still have Zach Davies, and they still have Chris Paddock. So they could, I would think at the end of the season, when free agency opens up, I could see him going after another big-name pitcher if there is one on the market, especially with the control of Mike Clevinger and really setting up a dynamic rotation to go around that lineup that they have. Let's go down the line to another trade that they made with the Mariners, a 7-person trade. So they got catcher Austin Nola, right-handed pitcher Dan Altavilla, and right-handed pitcher Austin Adams, and they gave up Ty France, Taylor Trammell, Andres Munoz, and Luis Torrens. They needed a catcher. That was their reports. They needed pitching help, they needed a catcher, and they needed back into the bullpen help, and they got it with Dan Altavilla and Austin Adams, and they got Austin Nola. They also were able to pick up from the Angels catcher Jason Castro. Castro is 33 years old. He's an upgrade to the current catching position in San Diego. He's only hitting 192, but he's reaching base at almost 1 in every 3 at-bats. He's 323 reaching on base, so he's got a good eye. He's been pretty consistent with that throughout his career. He's definitely someone that you can plug in. He knows the game. He's a good defensive catcher, nothing too great. And then you got Austin Nola coming, to pair up with him whenever there's an off day. So the Kansas City Royals, they got their eyes open. They got their eyes open and they're ready to go take down the Dodgers. The Padres only had to give up right-handed reliever Gerardo Reyes, who, I don't know, could be a player for the Angels. The Angels aren't very good at, deciphering who's a good, pitching talent still. So we'll see how that goes. But, you also pair that with them acquiring Mitch Moreland on, what was it? That was Sunday. That was Sunday night. Yeah, so Sunday night they got Mitch Moreland from the Boston Red Sox to play DH and back up Eric Hosmer, and Mitch Moreland was a great hitter for Boston. This season he's been hitting really well. His slash lines are 328, 430, and a 746. So he is definitely going to be the plug-and-play DH for the San Diego Padres moving forward. And they also, to round all of this out, they made a deal with the Kansas City Royals to get closer Trevor Rosenthal to San Diego in exchange for an outfield prospect, Edward Olivares, and a player to be named later. So I mean, you're looking at this San Diego team, and it's just eye-popping the type of talent that they have on this team. Rosenthal, he has a 3.29 ERA, 21 strikeouts, and 7 walks in 13 and 2/3 innings this year. Everybody, he's mostly made names because with the St. Louis Cardinals, he spent a few years with the Nationals, the Tigers, and the Royals. He has a career 3.46 ERA, but he's been a consistent closer wherever he's been, and I do not expect that to change in San Diego. I think there's going to be a fire lit under him, and any game going into the later stages and you're down against San Diego, you're just going to have to find a way to pull that out, because it's going to be really hard with Trevor Rosenthal on the back end of the bullpen, plus the other help that they got at the trade deadline. San Diego might have put themselves right up there with the Dodgers as the team to beat. They're the 3rd seed currently in the playoffs for the for the NL. They would actually they would be the 4th seed, because the top 3 seeds are the division winners, but they are ahead in the rankings, or in the standings. They're above the Atlanta Braves, so they have the 3rd best record in the NL, and it does not look like they're going to be stopping anytime soon. Moving on from San Diego finally to another team who made pretty big moves at the deadline. We got the Oakland Athletics. They were able to acquire Mike Minor from the Rangers for 2 players to be named later. Mike Minor, he was I would say an above average piece in Atlanta, when he was there for a little bit. Then he ended up going to Texas, and he was an above average piece there for a couple years. He's kind of struggled a bit this year, but going to Oakland loves pitching. They've always been a hotbed for pitching talent, and now is no different. They plug in Mike Minor to get out some lefties. They have a pretty lefty loaded starting rotation now that you add Mike Minor. You might have them go every 6th day just to give your pitchers just like a little bit more of a break, or that might that might put Luzardo currently just in the bullpen, just getting work out of the bullpen every now and then before he turns into a real starter. So that provides a lot of flexibility for the Oakland Athletics. They're still number 1 in the AL West rankings or standings. I gotta stop saying rankings. I gotta just pump these standings back into my head. But yeah, in the AL West standings, the Oakland Athletics still, even though they dropped a few games to the Astros over the weekend, they still have a pretty good lead in the AL West. On Sunday, the Chicago Cubs got Jose Martinez, the former outfielder from the St. Louis Cardinals, then designated hitter for the Tampa Bay Rays. He's a corner outfielder, first baseman, and they might put him at designated hitter. I don't really know what they plan to do with him yet, but it was an exchange for a combination of players to be named later or cash. That's who the Cubs sent to the Rays, and then not only that, but the Cubs designated Josh Fagley for assignment to vacate a spot on the 40-man and active rosters to make room for Jose Ramirez or Martinez. So the Cubs just added a lot more pop to their lineup, and they still have a commanding lead in the NL Central. They're just looking to make that leap into real World Series contenders. Moving on, we have Tommy Milone. So Tommy Milone was the opening day starter for the Orioles this year, and he got shipped off to the Atlanta Braves this weekend. He was acquired from the Orioles in exchange for 2 players to be named later. The Braves sent Matt Adams for assignment to clear space on the active roster. He did kind of start off his tenure with the Braves a little poorly. He gave up 7 earned runs and 8 hits over just 2 1/3 on Sunday. The Braves were hoping to solidify with their rotation in the final month with this acquisition of Tommy Milone. But they also, obviously, they didn't want to give up too much because the haul that the Indians got back from Mike Clevinger was way too much than what the Braves wanted to give up. I don't blame them. So they tried to, grab Tommy Milone, and he showed up, on short rest and through the game on Sunday. We were still able to pull that game out 12-10. It was a really exciting game, but it'll be nice to see what Tommy Milone is like on a full week's rest. Oh, excuse me. So yeah, I'll be waiting to see how that looks, and if he can really bring some thump back to the Braves pitching staff, because they're looking really young and really injury prone as of right now. So we have a few more to go over. Still checking my phone. I've yet to see anything new. So let's go to the Colorado Rockies, where they were able to nab Michael Givens from the Orioles for infielder Tyler Nevin, infielder Taryn Vavra? That's a tight last name, I'm not going to lie. And a player to be named or cash considerations. So if you were unfamiliar with Michael Givens because you're not watching the Orioles like most people aren't, he's 30 years old. He's got a range of, his fastball goes from around 99 to 96 miles per hour. He's got a pretty hard slider, and he has been incredible as a setup role guy for the Orioles this season. He's got a 1.38 ERA and 19 Ks in 13 innings. The Rockies are in the playoff picture. They're still third in the NL West, and they definitely need somebody to close out games, especially if, there's not going to be a bubble and they're going to be playing in Coors Field. They definitely need someone who can miss barrels and, just get those hard outs. They haven't really had one of those guys in a hot minute. So getting Michael Givens is a huge deal for the Colorado Rockies, and we'll see if they can stay in contention with the Dodgers and the San Diego Padres. Moving on, I would say shocking deal for me, because I did not think this team was actually buying at the trade deadline right now, but Starling Marte, this is the latest news, was sent to the Marlins. I don't know who they sent to the Diamondbacks. At this point, all I know is that the Marlins agreed to a trade for Starling Marte, and who's hit very well in his time with the Arizona Diamondbacks, a very short time with the Diamondbacks. He's 31. He's hitting .311, .384, and a .443 OPS. He's got a 123 OPS plus, which is 23 points above average. He's not a huge power threat. He's got a couple home runs. He's got 5 steals on 7 tries in 30 games. He is a huge upgrade at the outfield position for the Marlins, who just have one healthy outfielder with an OPS plus higher of 100, and that just happens to be Matt Joyce, who isn't the most, reliable outfield piece, especially, since he's been pretty much a journeyman DH, I would guess, throughout his past few years. And then rounding it out, the Diamondbacks also agreed to sell Robbie Ray to the Toronto Blue Jays, of all teams. So the Toronto Blue Jays, I fully believe, are just prepping for next year, getting what they can. This year they're exciting. They're killing it. They're actually the 8th seed in the American League for this postseason. They're fun. They're exciting. They're winning games. They're just gaining so much momentum, and they look like they're going to be world beaters in a few years. And I think that they made this acquisition of Robbie Ray because they want to, they really want to take this year and this offseason to figure out, okay, what has hindered you from your 2017 numbers, because he led the league in Ks per 9 in 2017. He was an all-star. He was an incredible pitcher in 2017, but the last few years have not been very kind to Robbie Ray. This year he has, the highest ERA amongst qualifying pitchers. But I guess they're trying to figure out, okay, what made you get to this point where your ERA is this high? And, people have been giving up on Robbie Ray, especially with the past 2 years, but may I remind you, I think it was either last year or the year before that, Lucas Giolito, he had the highest ERA amongst qualifying starters, and it's like, this year he's their besides, I would say, Dallas Keuchel, I would pick, Lucas Giolito as their number one. He just threw the first no-hitter of 2020. He looked elite of the elite, so maybe they know how to, fix Robbie Ray, and if they're able to do that, he is a solid piece for the Blue Jays going forward. And speaking of the Blue Jays and the standings, I will be taking a quick break, and I will be coming back to see how the trade deadline will affect the standings in the near future. Give me one moment, everybody. I will be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
All right, everybody, thank you all for sticking around to the third segment. I really appreciate all of you for staying around and listening to, me ramble on for this long. But in big news, it is officially 3 o'clock Central Time, which means it's 4 p.m. Eastern, which means the deadline has passed. So all the moves that need to have been made by for the season, for contenders, whatever their deal is, has been made, and it is closed. So let's check out the standings and see how everybody, is, how all the teams are doing, how, the surprises, everything like that, and most importantly, who didn't sell and is it going to hurt them? Who didn't buy, and if it was going to hurt them? So let's start off in the AL East. So the Tampa Bay Rays are pretty much the hottest team in baseball right now. They've won 18 of their last 21 games. They're currently sitting in first place of the AL East, as expected in the beginning of the year. They started off with their troubles, their struggles and all that kind of stuff. So the Rays are at 24-11. It looks like they're pretty much banking on them riding the wave and being, just good enough to get the job done, apparently, because, they traded away Jose Martinez. They didn't really get a solidified player after that, like, in that trade. So it looks like they are, they're just ready to get going and, crack skulls in the playoffs. The New York Yankees, they didn't really get anything done at the deadline either. They were looking at a pitcher, especially in the starting rotation. They thought there were going to be big players on Mike Clevinger. It looks like they didn't have the pieces to get that done. So they are currently sitting a game ahead of the Toronto I'm going to say the Buffalo Blue Jays, because that just sounds cooler. They're one game ahead of the Buffalo Blue Jays. It's gonna be weird to see. Maybe they've been struggling. They've struggled against pretty much everybody who's not the Boston Red Sox. So the Yankees, unless they get hot, I could see the Blue Jays, it being the Rays, the Jays, then the Yankees. You know what I'm saying? Especially with the acquisitions that the Toronto Blue Jays had. They've made a couple deals. I think if Robbie Ray actually gets, inspired and they figure something out that could, port him towards, fixing his problems, the Blue Jays could be some players in this division and the postseason. The Baltimore Orioles looks like they have started selling. They sold everybody at the deadline that they really needed to get out. They sold their reliever Michael Givens. They've lost 5 straight games. They're now 14-19. It looks like the ship has been, the ship's been rightened at for the Toronto or for the Baltimore Orioles, and the only team that is below them is the Boston Red Sox. They sold Mitch Moreland, so the speculation of, are they going to sell Xander Bogaerts? Who's he going to go to? Are they getting rid of everybody? Are they cleaning house? It looks like they might wait till either the winter meetings to do all that, or come back and just write off the season and hope next year is going to be better. And for Boston's sake, let's hope it's let's hope that next year is going to be better for them. Moving on to the AL Central, the Chicago White Sox stayed put. They are number 1 in the Central. They are incredibly hot. They had Luis Roberts walk off this weekend. I was so psyched to see Luis Robert hit that walk-off homer in the 10th. I was pumped. Oh man, that was going crazy. But the White Sox, I picked them before the season to win the Central. I thought they were going to be great. I thought they were the sleepers. They were projected to go, 3rd in the division. I was no way, honestly, no way I saw them going 3rd in this division. They are currently tied with the Cleveland Indians. It'll be weird to see, how Cleveland responds to the trade of Mike Clevinger and getting those 2 prospects. Could Frankie Lindor be, could he be looking around like, yo, what is happening here? Why'd you get a couple infielders behind me? Are you not going to try to extend me? That trade with the prospects, albeit, Frankie Lindor, Mr. Smile, he looks like nothing phases him, but, he's human at the end of the day. Something could phase him. He could look at it and be like, okay, where am I going to be? Where am I going? Am I on my way out? And just that thought in the back of your head could really mess with your confidence and really mess with, your play on the field, especially if it happens with their other big star, Jose Ramirez, as well. The Cleveland Indians, they bring up pitchers. Their pitchers are amazing. They're, it seems like they have an endless supply of it, but, they really needed to attack the outfield, and they didn't do it. They didn't really get any outfielders. They got they didn't even get Taylor Trammell. They got, man, who was that? Who did they? I just read that. What the heck? Let's go a little bit up, a little bit up, a little bit up. They got Josh Naylor, and Josh Naylor isn't, he's not someone to write home about. And they didn't really do anything else at the deadline at all to beef up their outfield. I think that they're going to continue to struggle. They may have just, irritated their best player, their franchise player, and arguably the best shortstop in the game. I see this as the White Sox division moving forward, especially because the next team, the Minnesota Twins, they've been dropping games left and right. They just got swept by the Tigers this weekend, and they did nothing as well. They needed a pitcher. They needed another impact bat, and they didn't do anything. They stayed completely put, and, that's not going to cut it for the Minnesota Twins. They needed help in that starting rotation. Their starting rotation is good, not great, and you need a great rotation to win playoff games, and they're not doing it. I think that, if they get to the when they get to the postseason, I will say that, because they currently have a better record than the Toronto Blue Jays, who is 5th. Let's see where they stand in the rankings right now. They're currently 7th. 7th in the playoffs. They're only a half game above the half game above the Blue Jays for the 8th seed, and they are 2.5 games above Detroit in the 9th seed. So, like, they needed something to really solidify them, and they didn't do it. And it's really going to bug me because I want to see the Twins actually, make an impact in the league. And it looks like they just let their time, they just let it go right past them. Detroit, we'll see if they have enough to keep it going. They didn't sell. They stayed put. They seem to be doing okay. They're 16-16. They're only 2 games out of the 8th seed in the postseason. So who knows? Maybe they could get hot. I told you before, don't sleep on the Tigers. Who slept on the Tigers? You're dumb. Listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. I may just be a random guy who's recording a podcast, but I know what I'm doing. I read on this stuff. Listen to me. I got you. Moving to the West, we got Oakland. They beefed up their pitching a little bit with the acquisition of Mike Minor. They are sitting at 2.5 games above the Houston Astros. They just dropped a couple games there this weekend, but they are sitting solidly as the number 2 team in the American League. They're number 1 in their division. They're, like I said, they're ahead of them by 2.5 games. Even if they were to lose it to Houston, they would still be right now the 6th seed, because that's where Houston is right now, just behind the 3 division leaders and the Yankees. And even then, with the easiest schedule in baseball, there's no way that Oakland's going to miss out on the playoffs, and they're definitely not going to drop lower than the number 2 seed in the AL West, because the Seattle Mariners are 3rd with 14-22 record. You got the Texas Rangers, who did not trade Lance Lynn. Surprisingly, they decided to ride him out for the rest of the year. They're sitting at 12-21, and the Angels, who traded their catcher, who they just got for some reason, I don't know why, but they traded him. They're sitting at 12-23. I don't expect any of those 3 teams to change. Houston I don't expect them to change. I don't expect them, get really hot and take over the AL West, mainly because they didn't make any moves at the deadline. I just like teams that are aggressive. I want teams to make moves. The more aggressive you are, the more I like you moving forward. And the AL West really didn't do anything. They didn't do a single thing besides the Oakland A's. The Seattle Mariners, they gave away some players to the San Diego Padres, but it's just going to be another few years before the Mariners will even think about contending, and especially with Jerry Dipoto as their GM, they're never going to contend, so get ready for that. So Seattle, as long as you have Jerry Dipoto as your general manager, don't expect anything to happen. Yeah, you got some no, your prospects, they're not going to pan out. They're not going to do anything. Jerry Dipoto is the worst. And that is from a former Angels fan who had him for a very long time, and I knew he was bad even when he was the GM of the Arizona Diamondbacks. So, speaking of the Diamondbacks, let's move over to the National League. We'll start off in the NL West and work our way over to the East. So we'll go the Dodgers. The Dodgers are the hottest team, or the best record in baseball right now. They're at 26-10. They made no moves at the deadline to do pretty much anything. We thought that they were going to go after another starting rotation piece. Didn't do that. We thought that they would go after, a bullpen piece. Did not do that either. They're sitting 5 games ahead of the San Diego Padres. I would not be surprised if the Padres caught them and took first place from the Dodgers. It has to happen sooner or later. The Dodgers will not win the National League West every single season. And I think this is the year that the San Diego Padres take the division back from the Dodgers. It has to happen sooner or later. And, they keep ignoring the fact that their bullpen is not that great. The San Diego Padres had issues. They went and they attacked their issues. I say the Padres are going to get hot and somehow surpass the Dodgers in the last month. They are only 5 games back. I think it could happen. That may just be a shot in the dark. But, hey, I'm calling my shot. Shoot from the hip. That's what we do over here. Moving on, we got the Colorado Rockies. They're sitting at 17-17. Let's see, where are they in the NL rankings? Colorado is currently 5th. Okay, not bad. 5th in the the 5th seed going into the playoffs. Not too shabby for the Colorado Rockies. They did make that deal to get Michael Givens to close out games. I think that they can make a pretty good push. I don't see them leaving their playoff spot at all, mainly because of how weak the NL is. So we'll see how they are moving forward. I thought that they would try and make a push probably for Trevor Bauer, someone who could keep the ball in the yard for him. None of that happened. So we'll see how that goes from there. It's, the San Francisco Giants, I see them staying put as the fourth in the standings for the National League West. I feel like they can make the playoffs. Are they in the playoffs right now? No, they're a half game out from the St. Louis Cardinals. I do feel like the Giants can make it. They stayed put. They didn't buy this time. They didn't buy. They didn't sell. So the Giants, I feel like they're kind of making their way towards the postseason. I feel like they can do it. Let's see if they will do it. As far as Arizona, they traded a bunch of their pieces away. Jot them down for last place and, don't move them. So we got the NL Central. We got the Chicago Cubs. They're sitting at 20-14. They just got Jose Martinez. That's another bat that they can put in the lineup. Maybe move, sit Jason Hayward. He's had a couple, he had a 2-homer game the other day, but so did pretty much everybody in that lineup against the Reds. So, maybe we'll put him as a bat instead of Jason Hayward, because, the inconsistencies of Jason Hayward always come back to bite him. Yeah, they're going to stay. I feel like they're going to stay exactly where they are. St. Louis didn't do anything at the deadline. I feel like they will stay exactly the same. Milwaukee's kind of getting hot. I could see them overtaking the St. Louis Cardinals, but I don't feel like it's going to happen if the Milwaukee Brewers don't get ridiculously hot. Cincinnati, I don't think it was a good idea to keep Trevor Bauer. I don't think Trevor Bauer is going to stay, and it was the perfect time to sell high. You got him low. Sell high. He's a Cy Young candidate. You're not good. You're 5 games out of first place. Where are they in the postseason standings? They're a game and a half out of the postseason behind St. Louis. They're sitting behind St. Louis, Milwaukee, and San Francisco. So, yeah, they're looking weak in the National League, but still, there's no chance you're making the World Series unless you get, next level hot. I'm talking Washington Nationals hot right now. And I don't see it happening with that lineup. I don't see it happening with the lineup. I don't see it happening with the pitching staff. I think you have Trevor Bauer. I feel like you could have got more for Trevor Bauer than the Indians got for Mike Clevinger. I really do. If you would have gave up Mike Clevinger, or if you would have gave up Trevor Bauer, I feel like you could have got a king's ransom, especially from one of the teams with an absolutely loaded farm system. You could have got, I would say, 3 to 4 of their top prospects if you would have just given them up. But they kept them. It'll probably come to bite them in the butt, because I don't think Trevor Bauer is going to be someone who is going to stay for free agency. I think he's going to figure out where the best place it is for him to live and the most amount of money that he's going to get, and, how much of a chance he has to play in the postseason, and who supports his media conglomerate. I feel like there's a lot of things that you have to, really have to. There's a lot of check marks you have to meet when you want to get Trevor Bauer, and I don't think that Cincinnati is going to hit all of those check marks, and I feel like another team definitely will. Pittsburgh did not do a thing. They're last place, worst record in baseball. It's going to stay that way. Moving on to the National League East, let's close that out. So Washington kind of just pushed on the whole season. They kind of went, it's not a good year for us. We had a lot of people opt out before the season. We had some injury concerns. We will be back next year, and we will be back to the contenders. But as for this year, we are not. No, we're not going to be pushing for the postseason at all this year, and I don't blame them for it at all. Moving on, we got the New York Mets. The New York Mets didn't do a thing. I thought they were going to try and trade Marcus Stroman for a storage piece, to a team that wants him just for next year, maybe like a sign and trade, so we didn't go to free agency. Didn't do that. He opted out for the season, so he's going to be, I think he's a free agent next year, so we'll see where he ends up going. Besides that, they stayed put. I don't see them doing pretty much anything. I think they're going to stay in the fourth seed in the East. Philadelphia. Philadelphia is currently tied with the Marlins. I feel like Philadelphia is better than the Marlins, so I feel like even though they still got Marte, I do not trust the Miami Marlins. I think they are going to fall in the standings. I think that they will end up third by the end of the season, and Philly will end up being second. But the one team that I have winning this division, because I have a 3-game lead on second place Miami, they were hot on the trails, or they had the hottest stove of the offseason, just picking up bullpen pieces, getting everything they could because their bullpen was terrible the year before. They needed starting rotation help, and they went out and got some. It is the Atlanta Braves. I feel like the Atlanta Braves are going to win the division. They're going to disappoint me in the divisional series because they'll be the 3rd seed playing the 6th seed, which as of right now would be, let's see, who's number 6? So we got 3, 4, 5. That would be actually Miami. So we would play Miami in the postseason if it ended today, and we would probably get swept or lose in 5 games. So have fun with that, Atlanta fans. I am one of you. I don't like it, but it's reality. Alrighty, guys. So I will be taking my final break, and you know how we have to end the show. Let's check out the series to watch for the week. I'll be right back after these messages.
Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Alright, everybody, I am back, and thank you all for sticking around to the end of the show. Let us look at the first series of September. Can't believe that 2020 has already reached September. This has been the weirdest, I don't have to explain to you, it's been the weirdest year of probably ever. But I'm just looking at the schedule on ESPN.com here, and there's not much that you really are, ready to write home about. I would say the first big series is a big series for, I would say, Yankee fans and for Braves fans, because it is the Toronto Blue Jays, or should I say the Buffalo Blue Jays, versus the Miami Marlins. So, the Marlins, we all know, are sitting in second place of the NL East. They're tied with the Phillies. And the Toronto Blue Jays are actually probably one of the hottest teams in baseball right now. And they're only sitting a game behind the New York Yankees, who are also playing the Tampa Bay Rays. So it is a huge series, because if the Toronto Blue Jays stay hot and take the series from the Miami Marlins, either 2-1 or a sweep, and something were to happen to the Yankees where they were to get swept or, lose 2 of the 3 games against Tampa, you got the Toronto Blue Jays chilling in second place of the NL East, which I would never have expected, but, here we are. That is a huge series, and then it's also a big series for Atlanta fans, because the Toronto Blue Jays, if they were to stay hot and were to absolutely just kill the Miami Marlins, whatever they're supposed to do, Atlanta has a 3-game set against the Boston Red Sox in Boston. So, Boston has done not very well this season, so it looks like they could really extend their lead in the NL East and kind of, give themselves some breathing room in the top of the division. So that is a huge series for Braves fans and for Yankee fans. Another big series for the Yankee fans, obviously, like I just hinted out, is the Battle of the NL East that's happening. So the Yankees are hosting the Tampa Bay Rays. Like I said earlier in the show, the Rays have won 18 of their last 21 games. The Yankees have struggled against everybody not named Boston. So this is a huge series for the New York Yankees. They have Masahiro Tanaka confirmed throwing. We don't know who is throwing tomorrow for the Tampa Bay Rays, but all I know is it is going to be a dogfight because the Yankees do not want to fall back in the standings behind the Toronto Blue Jays, and they're going to fight. This is going to be a pretty good series. They're not that far behind the Tampa Bay Rays. They can make up some ground in the NL East. Let's see, looking forward, I think on Tuesday, if you're listening to this the day it comes out, there's a pretty good pitching matchup with Patrick Corbin and Aaron Nola. Granted, it's two teams in the NL East. The Nationals have decided, and they're not really playing this year, but the Phillies, they're tied for second with the Miami Marlins. That's just going to be a good pitching matchup. Aaron Nola's kind of figured out what's wrong with him. He had a pretty bad year last season, but he's had a very good one this year, and so we'll see how he throws with that. I'll be watching that one just because I like the pitching matchup, but there's really nothing to write home about with that series. Let's see, looking forward, Chicago and Pittsburgh, nothing really to write home about there. Atlanta, Boston, only fans are going to watch that. The Mets versus the Orioles, that's just, some tune-up games for the Mets. Let's see, Detroit versus Milwaukee, that could be something. I think that could be something because Detroit needs the win to close the gap on the Mariners, or not the Mariners, the Twins, and really push for that 8th seed in the postseason. So we'll see if Detroit can really squeak out a win in Milwaukee. And Milwaukee's just struggled all season, so we don't really know what's going to happen with them. They could make it, they could not make it. Who knows? It looks like Christian Yelich is playing a little better, which is nice. But we'll see. We'll see how Milwaukee ends up. Cleveland and Kansas City. Kansas City has been kind of a tough out. They've got some pretty good wins against some pretty good teams. So we'll see if Kansas City can take the series from Cleveland and really allow the White Sox to have some breathing room in the division if they're able to have a good series against their opponent. I'll be talking about them in just a second. Let's see. Texas at Houston, nothing really to write home about. San Francisco, Colorado, that'll be a good series just because you don't know what's going to happen with either of them. San Francisco's pushing for the postseason. Colorado's in the postseason, and they're going to, try and keep their spot. As of right now, that's what I'm saying. They're in the postseason, but, they're currently the 4th seed, so we'll see how that goes. I think, and it's in Coors Field, so that there's going to be balls flying out of the park. And then Arizona versus the Dodgers. Arizona just sold everybody, so I don't expect them to be doing much. And then the Dodgers, you know what to expect from the Dodgers. You get the same thing every time. And then lastly, this is the last series to talk about because I think this is the best series to talk about. So you have the Chicago White Sox in Minnesota at Target Field to take on the Minnesota Twins. The first day of this series, Tuesday, you have Dallas Keuchel versus Michael Pineda. What a pitching matchup. The Minnesota Twins just got swept by the Detroit Tigers. They need to have a good series, and Chicago is hot as any team in the bigs. They are looking to solidify themselves as the number 1 team in the AL Central. This is going to be a major league slugfest. This is 100% going to be 2 heavyweights going back at it. Can the Minnesota pitching shut down the Chicago White Sox power? Because once, I don't know what happened, but it never fails. The second I start making fun of the Chicago White Sox and their players like Yasmani Grandal and, Jose Abreu wasn't doing so hot at the start of the season, as soon as I said something, it was just Homer City. All they're doing is just hitting dingers left and right, and, they're looking like one of the most powerful teams in the game. And with their pitching and, with their bullpen help and their youth in the lineup, you cannot take a break at all whatsoever. And I'm ready to watch this series. I cannot wait for it to start tomorrow. And with that being said, that is our show, everybody. I would like to, I will be back on Friday with a new episode. Everyone, enjoy your week, enjoy your families, and enjoy the slate of baseball that we have in front of us. You can follow me on Instagram at EvanWorley23. You can play me in Tap Baseball if you're bored. My nickname is EvanWorley23, and I would like to thank you for listening to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask you to please remember to subscribe to the show, write a nice review, because that really helps us out. And also, if you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you all, and have a great week. I will see you all on Friday.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.